Good morning, and welcome to the First Existentialist Congregation of Atlanta. We are a philosophically based spiritual community founded on existential philosophy and feminist principles and dedicated to human liberation and the protection of the natural world. My name is Patton White, and I will be facilitating this morning's celebration of life. We make our spiritual home in the Old Stone Church, which was hand-built 100 years ago by the African-American Antioch East Baptist Church. We honor their labors of love and the powerful history of this special place. We acknowledge that our spiritual home stands on land forcibly taken from the Muskogee Creek people, and we support justice and equality for all Indigenous people. Our opening words today are a poem by Alice Teeter from her book Elephant Girls. It is entitled Wild Persimmon Tree. There is a wild persimmon tree at the west end of the cemetery, covered in sweetness that litters the ground. Most people these days pass it by, squishing the brown fruit under their feet, paying no mind to the richness that grows and ripens and then rolls into the grass. Again, that was a poem by Alice Teeter. This morning we have a music recording made by Kathy Mcguire. She's sharing a little bit of a music interlude with us. And so please welcome or join me in welcoming Kathy Mcguire to share her music with us. Kathy.
El río fluye al mar, el océano a la tierra va, y en la tierra corren las criaturas de Dios, y el suelo las bautiza. The river runs to the sea, the ocean runs to the land, and on this earth run the creatures of God, and she holds them all in her hand. No soy recordativo del mundo que te sin of God. I cannot regret my past.
Thank you so much, Kathy, for your lovely voice and talent, and I always love hearing from you. Today's speaker, the Reverend Marsha Mitchiner, was ordained by us, the First Existentialist Congregation, after several years of study with founding minister R. Lanier Clance. Today, she is part of the connective tissue of our congregation, holding together disparate elements, reaching out to folks whom we haven't heard from recently, and comforting those who need support. She plays in the dirt whenever she can, refreshes herself with her partner on trips to the Georgia mountains, and shares her thinking with us several times a year. Let's all welcome Reverend Marsha Mitchiner.
Good morning. As I started writing the service for today, I realized that the title that I had put in the newsletter, Thinking Long and Hard, Getting Honest, and Setting Priorities, is not really what I wanted to talk about, but that is something that I will probably talk about in the January the 2nd, 2022 service. So please stay tuned. Today, though, I want to focus on how Thanksgiving reminds me of the great wealth that I have in my life. Webster defines wealth as an abundance of valuable material possessions or resources, or the more general definition that I want to talk about today, which is abundant supply. I've never doubted that I have been given an abundant supply of gifts throughout my life that have impacted the person that I have become and that I continue to evolve into being. When I look back at my childhood, I can't imagine a greater gift than being born in a place and a time when I could play outside. And not just play outside, but especially playing by roaming in the woods with my friends, climbing trees, building dams in the creek, making pine straw forts, and just in general being able to experience the majesty of nature up close and personal. Though the thing that too is very striking to me when I think back on it is that I would be gone, out in the woods with my friends, or sometimes even, by myself. And we'd be gone on the weekends. We'd be gone all day. And I don't believe that I or my parents ever really worried about the idea that we would be grabbed, be snatched up, by some predator that maybe a snake, would bite us, but not that a person, would grab us. Yet that is something that you can't pick up a newspaper or open the look at the the news on the TV and not hear about some terrible experience that's going on for some family. But for me, I had this amazing freedom to explore, and it gave me the opportunity to learn about, appreciate nature, and do the little things. Like in the summertime, we would, as it got dark, we would catch fireflies and put them in a jar, and it was just fascinating to get to watch them, flashing off and on. And then, of course, before we came inside, we would open the jar and let them out. So that was one of the joys. And then on the other side of that is the experience of finding a little dead bird that maybe had been electrocuted from, one of the wires. And we would mourn about that little bird and bury it, have a little service and everything. So it was really learning about all of the aspects, of nature. And at the same time that I had these joys, it also gave me the confidence that I could be on my own. I could make decisions about where I was going to go, what I was going to do, as long as I stayed within the parameters that my parents had set, like being home, before dark, those kind of things. That um, so it just gave me that sense of being able to make my own decisions, even as a child. Gave me that confidence. That love of nature is a gift that influences me every day today, giving me pleasure still in the little, usually small but important things in life, like pulling into my driveway and just sitting in my car so that I can watch the little bird feeder and see the little birds that come to that feeder. I can sit there for a long time and just watch them come and go, and feel a real personal joy inside, at watching that everyday activity that these little birds, do, just as part of life. And another one of the things that is certainly a great joy in my life is having a meal that, of course, Chancey cooked, but a meal that I can enjoy because one of the seasonings in that meal is an herb that I grew in my own garden. And knowing, how much I love playing in the dirt. And so being able to experience that taste, because I had done something that grew and provided that kind of special flavor, is pretty amazing. It's very special. And I'm grateful that I grew up with siblings. I had an older sister, I have an older brother, and I have a younger sister. And one of the things about growing up with siblings is that you learn that you're not always going to get your way. That, in fact, being in the middle like that, I often didn't get my way, but sometimes I did. I didn't always lose, and it was the opportunity to learn how to negotiate, to get what I wanted, how to give and take, and how to learn that that even though you didn't always get your way, that in the long run it all seemed to work out, okay. And that process of being in that relationship with my siblings, it taught me that that not only could I participate in that process of negotiating and making choices, but it also gave me that sense of love and support that I needed, to be comfortable, and feel personally, strong as a child, because I had that support, around me. I shared a bathroom, a bedroom with one, and then once my little baby sister came along, 2 others, and I shared the bathroom with 5 others until I was about 16, and I got my own bedroom, and it had a bathroom, with it. And although as a teenager I thought that it was an eternity, before that opportunity came about. But then I think about the fact that there's so many children out there that don't even have a place to sleep. I never worried about whether or not there was going to be food on the table, or I was going to have a place to sleep, that I was going to have decent clothes, to wear. But there are children everywhere that will never know what it's like, to have that. So I'm very grateful and aware of what a gift it was to be in that kind of situation. I'm aware that my father left the farm that his family had worked for years and for generations, and he left that farm so that he could move to a city and take classes in business and become a businessman, so that he could better provide for the family that he expected, to have. And that is exactly what he did. I'm a little bit embarrassed that as I was writing this, that I remembered an experience where, as a teenager, I had picked out a coat that I wanted for Christmas. And my father got it, but he put it on layaway because he didn't buy things on credit. And as it got closer to Christmas, as it started getting colder, I wanted that coat. And I was mad that I wasn't going to get that coat, that I had to wait, to get that coat. I'm a little embarrassed now to think that waiting for a month or so for that coat was so important, when, again, there's so many children that'll never have that gift. The same parents that I talked about that provided for my material well-being also provided a stable environment that included learning values that I definitely hold as essential to this very day, essential to who I am in this world. As values like respect for others, concern for those that are less fortunate, that the value of education and working for what I want. Although neither of my parents went to college, they did both take classes in business, and they did that because they wanted to better themselves and to provide a better opportunity for their children. When I went to college, my first 2 years, I went to a small state school, and my parents took out student loans, education loans, so that I could go to college. Now, it is kind of mind-blowing when I look back and I think that to do that, the cost was just under $700 per quarter, and that included room and board, and as well as tuition. $700 a quarter. Students that have these massive student loans to pay off now, I'm sure, would just be appalled to think that could have been a reality. But 50 years ago, that was a lot of money for my lower middle class, family with one income. Only my dad worked, and well, that's not true. Only my dad worked outside the home and brought home a paycheck. Believe me, my mother worked very hard with 4 children, but with one source of income. $700 a quarter was a lot of money. Plus, they had already put 2 kids to school through college. And here I was, the third one coming along. So I'm aware of how important they valued, how much they valued education, how much knowledge was a key to them to getting ahead and being a broader person. And that is what they wanted for me. Since 2 of my siblings were 6.5 and 5.5 years older, and my baby sister was 7 years younger, that kind of put me for a while as the baby in the house. And then when baby sister came along, but 7 years later, I was like sort of like this middle child, and they were older. She was younger. So I was kind of in this limbo where I didn't have anybody at home, to play with. So on days when it was raining or too cold to go outside or something like that to be with my friends and play, my mother would have me sit down and pick a volume from the Encyclopedia Britannica set that we had and just open it up and learn about some place new or some idea or thing, that I didn't know about before. And if I got bored with that, then she would sit me down with the family dictionary. And it was this, in my child's eye, and that I remember now, it was this huge dictionary. I mean, it was like this thick, and it was big dictionary. And she'd say, open it up, run your finger down, and just stop and learn that word. See what does that mean, and then how do you spell it? So that it was a way of both entertaining me, but also, educating me. And it gave me a real love for learning and, looking at and finding out about new things and new ideas. Opened up, a whole new world. They really encouraged me to read, and I loved to read as a child. I still do. But they were very aware of my schoolwork. They made sure that I studied, that I did my homework. And I was so grateful that they knew that I did not want a doll as a gift. I know that doesn't surprise you. But they could have forced, a doll on me as a girl. But instead, my most wonderful gift that I remember was I got a microscope and a chemistry set. And I could take that microscope and go outside and find a little grain of dirt or a leaf, of the dead bug, whatever, and put it under the microscope, and it would be like, oh man, I mean, this is just, it was so exciting, to see something that magnified like that, and caused me to again want to explore and to learn more. And my chemistry set, I mean, they had things that it would tell you how to do this, where you put this thing and this thing together, and it might do something like, it might get hard. They were both liquids, but they would become hard when you put them together, or it would change color, or maybe it would, bubble over. And again, something that was exciting. It was fun, but it was exciting, and it created this feeling of wanting to learn, wanting to know more about all these things. So I'm just so grateful, for all of these wonderful things that really gave me such joy. I mean, I felt such great joy from so many of these gifts. And I want to share a short quote. This is by Rollo May, and he says, "Joy, rather than happiness, is the goal of life. For joy is the emotion which accompanies our fulfilling our nature as human beings. It is based on the experience of one's identity as a being of worth and dignity." Amen. All of these gifts provided me with a foundation. It was a foundation for success. Success as I grew older, and success in my adult life. Success that is far beyond any monetary value, because it's success not just from being able to have an occupation that brings money and allows me to buy a house and have a car and those kind of things, but rather to be, the person that I am. So these are the gifts that I had as a child. So what about the gifts that I've received in adulthood? Where to begin with those? Given such a strong foundation, I was able to approach the world with a sense of strength from the time that I, left home. I felt confident, but I also had an awareness of a sense of duty, of industry, of caring about others, and of seeking more knowledge and more experiences. Throughout my college and post-graduation, I understood the value of friendship and community. When I graduated in the 1960s, I stepped into a hippie world where I could be more of who I am. Although I was in the closet professionally, being in a large city like Atlanta, I had the opportunity to discover a very strong feminist, lesbian, social network. And again, because I was in a large city like Atlanta, I had adventures as a 20-something that were unavailable to most LGBTQ people of my day, and largely even today. And then one of the greatest gifts that I think I've ever had in my life is that I fell in love with a woman that remarkably loved me back. and she still does. She not only loves me, but she is the rock, in my life. And yes, we've had hard times. We faced various deaths in our family that were unexpected and felt very tragic. And we've had our own personal issues, disagreements, that kind of thing. But the joys far outnumber any of the lows, and yet both the joys and the lows created a foundation that continues to grow and that moves us forward, and gives us the strength to face whatever tomorrow is gonna bring us. And another gift that has been very life affirming and a path forward for me was my introduction and definitely my continued involvement with the First Existentialist Church and now Congregation. In First D, I found a community of individuals that more openly, cared for others, that and people that weren't necessarily like them. It went way beyond that. People that didn't mind working for a goal. People that didn't mind getting their hands dirty and painting the sanctuary, or creating the woodland sanctuary, outside, or coming up with the money over time to pay off our mortgage, which was a major accomplishment given the small congregation that we are. There were people to listen, or want to listen, and to explore new ideas that would open up their minds to new possibilities. People who didn't want to be told what to believe or what to read, what to study, but rather people that wanted to grow in all directions and grow in a way that they would become a better person as an individual. That community that I came into is certainly a community that still exists today at First D. Many of those of you who are listening today are part of that community. The friendships that I've made at First D, have endured time and separation, and people have moved away, or people have come to First D and then they've gone, and yet that there's still that connection. Reverend Clance gave me the gift of seeing. He saw something in me, and that kindled something in myself, that when he invited me to be a member of his training program, ministerial training program. I don't take lightly the opportunities that gave me, and the opportunity for personal growth and service that it has afforded me. One of the best days of my life was the day that I was ordained by First Existentialist. These are things that have value beyond all measure, and that I can never fully repay. And in addition to First E, I have a loving, supportive community of friends that includes family that strengthen my ability to be me. Recognizing all of these gifts and so much more heightens my desire to give back, to help others, because I realize how fortunate, that I have been in my life. And now that I've gone down this memory lane, and hopefully those of you who are still hanging in there and been indulgent with me for this period of time, I hope that your memory has been triggered so that you have remembered the many gifts that you've received both in childhood and throughout your life, and things that you feel have helped to build the person that you are, today. And like me, I hope that you will see these gifts and appreciate them in a way that you will, along with me, want to pay it forward. That's the message. Pay it forward. So as I close, I just want to say that I love you, I miss you, and I am very much looking forward to seeing you in person with mask on January the 2nd of 2022. Until then.
Thank you so much, Marsha, for your words today. We look forward to seeing many of you on the Zoom meeting immediately following today's broadcast. If you would like to join us for that, you can find the link to the meeting in the comment section of today's, or the chat section of today's broadcast. Next week we will welcome Reverend Kim Palmer, and she will be sharing a talk entitled Atheist Spirituality. We hope to see you again on Zoom, either immediately following this or next Sunday at 11 a.m. In the meantime, I hope that you have a wonderful holiday Thanksgiving, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.